Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today, we would be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 3rd January 2018. Now, let us begin. Now, we begin by first analyzing the news about the FRDI Bill from page 1, and it has to be seen with the corresponding news on page 10. Now, let us first understand as to what is the FRDI Bill and about the bail-in provision. Now, the Financial Resolution and Deposit Insurance Bill of 2017 is currently being examined by the Joint Committee of both Houses of Parliament. Now, the first question is as to what is the FRDI Bill? Now, the FRDI Bill seeks to establish a resolution corporation to monitor risks faced by financial firms such as bank, insurance companies, etc. Now, apart from monitoring risks, its second purpose is to resolve them. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood the purpose of the FRDI Bill and as to what are the objectives of the Resolution Corporation. Now, the second question that is being asked as to what is the bail-in provision. Now, the FRDI Bill specifies various tools to resolve a failing financial firm, and one of these methods that allows a financial firm on the verge of failure to be rescued is by internally restructuring its debt. Now, bail-ins differ from a bailout. In a bailout, it involves funds being infused by external sources such as the government and through which a firm is rescued. But in the bail-in provision, the Resolution Corporation would internally restructure the debt by first cancelling liabilities that the firm owes to its creditors. Or the second provision would be to convert its liabilities into any other form, such as converting its debt into equity. Now, one thing that you have to understand is that a depositor's money that they have submitted in their accounts is a liability on the bank because the bank has to pay back the depositor. Now, the problem with the bail-in provision has been that theoretically it allows the creditors and the depositors to take a loss on their holding. So, if a bail-in provision is applied to a failing bank, then the money that the depositors have deposited in their accounts might either be cancelled or converted, and is a current issue with the bail-in provision. Now, the Government of India has issued some clarification with regard to this problem. Now, the first clarification that the government has given that uninsured depositors are to be given preference in the event of a bank liquidation. The second clarification is that the bail-in clause will only be applied after seeking the consent of the depositor. The third point is that this bail-in clause would not be applied to public sector banks. Now, public sector banks are such as State Bank of India, Canara Bank, among others. The fourth point is the Resolution Corporation can increase the insurance on a deposit from the current 1 lakh. See, currently, in case of bank deposits, amount up to 1 lakh rupees are insured by the Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. So, if in a case a bank does not have enough money to repay the deposits, then the DICGC has insured the deposit up to the amount of 1 lakh rupees. So now the Government of India has said that the Resolution Corporation can raise this deposit insurance from the current 1 lakh. Now the fifth point is that the bail-in provision would be subject to the oversight of the Government of India and of the Parliament. Now the sixth point, the insured deposits of banks cannot be used in case of a bail-in. Now hopefully up till here, you have understood as to what is the bail-in provision, what is its technical meaning, and how does it work. Moreover, you have understood the problem with the bail-in provision and the clarification given by the Government of India with regards to this problem. Now you have to understand that this news is currently in transition and we have to look forward to the report of the Joint Committee. Now we move on to our next article. Now we have taken the news on electoral bonds from page 1. Now as you may know, the Finance Minister of India had announced the electoral bond scheme in the budget of 2017. Now the question is, what are electoral bonds? Now an electoral bond is a bond for the purpose of donation to a registered political party. Now by the term registered political party, it means that the political party has to be registered under the Election Commission of India. Now the second point is that the electoral bond has to be issued by a notified bank in India. The third point is that the political party which receives these electoral bonds can convert them into money via their registered bank account. The fourth point is, Now, the bank account that is being used to receive such electoral bonds by a political party must be notified to the Election Commission of India. The fifth point is the electoral bond will not carry the name of the payee. It means that the name of the person making the donation will not be disclosed. The sixth and the last point is that the electoral bond must be redeemed by the political party within a prescribed time limit. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood as to when the electoral bond scheme began and what are the basic features of the electoral bonds. Now, the question is, why is it in the news? Now, the Government of India has notified three features of the electoral bond scheme. The first is the denominations of the electoral bonds, which the Government of India has said can be in any amount in multiples of rupees 1000, rupees 10,000, rupees 1 lakh, rupees 10 lakh, rupees 1 crore. The second point is that it can be bought from specified State Bank of India branches. The third point is that the purchaser must pay from a Know Your Customer compliant bank account. Now, the second feature which the Government of India has notified is the period of their validity. The electoral bonds will have a life of 15 days during which they can be used to make donations to registered political parties. Now, the third feature which the Government of India has notified is about the eligibility of the purchasers. Now, as per the Government of India, only citizens of India or bodies incorporated in India can buy these electoral bonds. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood as to why the electoral bonds are in the news, the three sub-features of the electoral bonds that the government has recently announced. So, hopefully, if any question is asked in your prelims examination, such as which of the following are the features of the electoral bond scheme, and similarly, if a question is asked in your mains examination with regards to the electoral bond scheme, you would be able to answer. Now we move on to our next article. Now there are three articles that are focusing on the National Medical Commission Bill of 2017. Now this article is from page 1, the middle article is from page 8, and the third article is from page 10. Now let us first understand as to what is the National Medical Commission Bill of 2017. Now the first point is, now this bill repeals the Indian Medical Council Act of 1956. The second point is, now the National Medical Commission Bill dissolves the Medical Council of India and forms the National Medical Commission. Now the third and the last point is the purpose of the National Medical Commission Bill. Now the purpose of the National Medical Commission is to regulate medical education and medical practice. Now the question is as to why the Indian Medical Council Act of 1956 is being repealed and why there is a need for a new National Medical Commission. Now, a committee was set up in 2016 under the Niti Aayog with Dr. Arvind Panakaria as its chairman, which had to review the 1956 Act. Now, this committee recommended changes to improve medical education and the quality of doctors in India. Now, this committee proposed that the 1956 Act should be replaced by a new law and also proposed a draft bill in August of 2016. Now, moreover, an expert committee led by Professor Ranjit Roy Chaudhary in 2015 recommended structural reforms to the Medical Council of India and suggested a formation of the National Medical Commission through a new act. Now, the third and the final reason given in the bill is that there is overt centralization in the Medical Council of India and that its features are outdated. Now, hopefully, up till here, you understand the various features of the National Medical Commission Bill of 2017. You also further understand as to why the Indian Medical Council Act of 1956 is being repealed and why the Medical Council of India needs to be dissolved. Now the question is, why is this bill in the news? Now this bill is being opposed by the Indian Medical Association and has therefore been referred to a standing committee. Now let us understand as to what is the controversy with this bill. Now the first reason as to why this bill is being opposed is that the Government of India will nominate the chairman and the members of the National Medical Commission. Now this is being opposed by the doctors' fraternity because this allows the domination of the government. And second, there is no representation from the doctors' fraternity. The second reason as to why the bill is being opposed because it allows Ayush practitioners to prescribe allopathic medicines after completing a bridge course. Now this is being opposed by the medical fraternity because according to them this is an experimental system and therefore needs further studies and scrutiny. Now hopefully up till here you understand as to why the National Medical Commission Bill of 2017 is in the news and what are the reasons it is being opposed upon. Now obviously this news is in transition since the bill has been referred to a standing committee, so we have to wait for further status. Now we move on to our next article. Now we have taken this news from page 10. Now the analysis of the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Bill 2017 has been covered in detail in the DNS of 29th December 2017. And you can refer to this video to further understand this issue. Now we move on to our next article. Now we have taken this news from page 11. Now this article talks about the ASEAN-India Summit. Now let us first understand a brief about the ASEAN organization. Now ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, consists of 10 members: Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Singapore, Indonesia, Laos, Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, and Brunei Darussalam. Now all these nations are located in Southeast Asia. Now this organization was established in 1967 with the signing of the ASEAN Declaration, or properly referred to as the Bangkok Declaration. Now the ASEAN member states adopted the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia in 1976. Now with regards to the India-ASEAN relations, India became a sectoral partner of the ASEAN in 1992. India became a dialogue partner of ASEAN in 1996. And finally, India became a summit-level partner in 2002. Now the government of India and ASEAN are celebrating 25 years of India becoming a dialogue partner of ASEAN. And this summit will be held in India in this year. India acceded to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia in 2003. Now hopefully up till here, you understand the timeline of India-ASEAN relations. Now the relations between India and ASEAN is based on the Act East policy. Now the Look East policy was upgraded to the Act East policy by the current government in 2014. Now this was done at the India-ASEAN Summit held in Nai Pai Tau in Myanmar. Now the ASEAN organization is considered as a main regional grouping of engagement for India under its Act East policy. Now as you may know, the 15th India-ASEAN Summit was recently held in Manila, Philippines in 2017. Now at this summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited the ASEAN members as chief guests for the Republic Day celebrations on 26 January 2018. Now hopefully up till here, you understand the basics of the Act East policy and why ASEAN is currently in the news. Now India-ASEAN relations have been covered in depth in the December edition of the Focus magazine. Now we move on to our next article. Now we have taken this news from page 18. Now this article talks about several rocket launches towards the moon, and one of those launches is of Chandrayaan-2. Now let us get a brief understanding of Chandrayaan-2. Now the Chandrayaan-2 is expected to launch for the moon in early of 2018. Now it would include an orbiter, lander and a rover. Now Chandrayaan-2 would be the first mission by India which would have a soft landing on the moon. Now a soft landing means a landing wherein the spacecraft touches the ground in a controlled and gradual way that doesn't damage the spacecraft. Now the rover would observe the lunar surface and the lunar soil, meaning it would observe the surface and the soil of the moon. While the Chandrayaan-2 would be conducting a remote sensing of the moon. While the payloads that are part of the Chandrayaan-2 will collect scientific information on lunar topography, mineralogy, elemental abundance, lunar exosphere, and signatures of hydroxyl and water ice. Now hopefully up till here, you have understood the basic features of Chandrayaan-2 as to what is significant about this project and what are the various objectives of this project. So if a question is ever asked in your prelims examination about Chandrayaan-2 with regards to its objective, you would be able to answer. Now with this, we come to an end to the analysis of today's paper. Let's move on to the question for today.